Hey friends, welcome to Money Talks. I'm Rosie.
I'm Eric.
And today we're going to be hearing from Jeff Wallace, Taylor University's Chief of Police, on financial regrets versus realities.
You won't regret it.
I'm going to be talking about regrets and realities of a few different areas. I'm going to start with savings. This is kind of an interesting thing because from my own experience, I didn't really think about savings much when I was younger. And I was talking about my wife with this. It's a difficult thing to go into kind of post-college because you don't have a lot of money to save. I'm going to be totally honest with you. It's kind of a reality of trying to figure out how to pay for living expenses, how to pay for needs and necessities, and maybe even have some wants, but to still have some form of savings. But I think the important thing is to know that even a little bit is better than nothing because it's kind of starting a pattern or a habit, the ability to be able to put stuff away. Some of the notes I have, I'm just going to read through a little bit of it, but the first thing about savings that's important that I want to share is that your prioritization has to be really about putting God first. He's going to bless everything you do, everything you're able to save, everything you're able to put away, as far as your needs and stuff. And I'll get into this a little bit more into the tithing part of it, but really prioritization with God being first is going to really be the first bullet point in every one of my areas. Because really, the living expenses, whether it's an apartment or a home with a mortgage and cars and insurance and all the kind of things that you really can't really expect, or you think you expect and it's greater than that, by putting God first, He's going to enable you to navigate those waters better, and He's going to be able to kind of make that money grow. I remember, there's a couple areas where my parents, things that they said to me have really kind of stood out and been significant even all these years later. And then this is going to be my segue to tithing, but one of them was savings, and that just even a little bit, God's going to bless and kind of, expand that and its ability to what it can do to help you and provide for you, because we serve a God of provision, and so He works in all kinds of different ways through that. So, the regrets that I didn't start sooner with it, I really didn't have a plan until later in life, and the biggest part of the savings thing is kind of preparing for emergencies, because they will happen. Absolutely, they will happen, and just to have something set aside, it's amazing how a few $100s when you have a car repair helps you maintain a budget or helps you be able to pay certain bills that have to be paid because they're part of your life, your living, but have a little emergency fund, have a little savings set aside to be able to pay for those kind of contingencies that you can't plan for, but definitely will come. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the debt part of it. Moving on to tithing, and again, this goes right back to what I said about the savings part of it, is you have to give to the Lord first. That has to be your top priority. And really what that is, it's not even about the money or the amount of, it's about the desire to worship God and to give Him what's His. If we truly look at it that everything we have is from Him, then we should want to give back to Him first. And I'm not saying that I've always done that well. My wife and I were talking about this, and sometimes it's almost, I don't know if embarrassing is the word, but to come before a camera and to share this kind of experience when I have a lot of failures in this area. But it's all part of growth. I know God knows that, and it's all part of just trying to demonstrate our trust and our faith and what it is to actually worship Him and worship Him well as He's worthy of. But the interesting thing about tithing that I have found over the years, and this is the other part my parents used to always tell me, is that you can never outgive God. So, and I have found that so many times to be true, that in tithing, when it hurt, and with finances as they are sometimes, tithing kind of hurts in a way, but the blessings that come from that, I can't even explain. Something comes in the mail that you didn't expect, a refund from something, or time and time again, I have seen the ways that God has provided through our faithfulness when we give, and likewise, and the regret part of it would be the times when other things take priority. A vacation, date night, simple life things that are meaningful and important, but it's taking away from giving to God first. It's amazing how the money just kind of starts seeping through holes in your budget and in your bank account, and in ways that, and it's not like He's trying to punish it all, but I think He's trying to make a reality. He's like, hey, let me handle your money, give it to me first, and I'm going to really, expand on the blessings you can get from it. So it's like, and this really has been more the case, not so much like when I was in my younger years, but definitely being married now for 25 years, we've seen this time and time again where God's provision for us has been a direct result of us trying to just give it to God and say, we can't do it. And that's okay to say that sometimes. It's like, I'm not doing it well, but God, here's yours. You help me do it better. And He is always faithful in that. And the neat thing that comes from that is a contentment. And so it's not just about the amount of money, it's not like the money grows on a tree and all of a sudden you're rolling in the dough, but the contentment with what you have, what you're able to work with, the blessings to your family in ways that aren't monetary far outweigh the dollar amount that could be in a bank account. So just make sure that's clear. So trust His plan for your life. Know that He has the best way to provide for us, and that's what tithing is about. It's just allowing Him to do what He wants to do. And it's showing that we place our trust in Him for that. So I'm going to move on to debt and getting out of debt. This one is like scary one, to be honest, because like debt seems somewhat unavoidable in life. And I even say that now, after all these years being out of college and going back to grad school, having school bills again, and having kids in school, in college with school bills. So to try to get out of debt is a difficult thing, but I do see the benefit of it, and certainly the ways to get to that point sooner than later, and that's kind of trial and error, and that's by a lot of successes and a lot of failures, a lot of regrets and realities. But the key is to not take on unnecessary debt, and I feel like that's something that I look back on and I regret, because when you're, and speaking for myself and my wife, like when we were younger, starting out married, we didn't have much. In fact, I remember our very first Christmas tree. We got married in December, so Christmas was a matter of weeks later, and our very first Christmas tree, we just didn't have any money, and we actually like strung lights on our wall and taped them to the wall in the shape of a Christmas tree. So that was our first Christmas tree, and I remember thinking, not doing that anymore. I don't care what it takes. Well, unfortunately, that mindset, even when it's out of best intentions, like I really want to provide what's best for my wife or my family, sometimes that forces, and I think this is the way of everybody, but especially men, sometimes it forces us out of wanting to provide for our family to maybe take on debt that would be unnecessary just to make things better. And that's what I'm guilty of. And that's maybe kind of a regret. Not regret that I wanted to take care of my family, but sometimes I took on debt I didn't need to, whether it was trading in a perfectly good car because I just wanted something a little sportier, a little faster, whatever. Increasing the payment just a little bit, thinking it's not that much. But what it's doing is taking on debt and it's taking that money away from your ability to maybe set back a little more for an emergency. Or it's kind of a flow, it all trickles downhill. So a little more of a car payment, a little more debt here, takes away from an area you could have had something else, maybe a little more fun, can't go on quite the vacation, or you can't put as much in savings, and it all just kind of has this effect to where it starts consuming your time. And that's a big thing that I feel is a regret in taking on some debt that was unnecessary, is that it really takes your focus on what's important to you, because now you're working for your lifestyle sometimes, or you're working to pay bills that you wouldn't have had to do, and it takes a little bit of joy from the work, it takes a little bit of joy from spending time with your family and true quality time, and that clearly is not something that anybody wants, and sometimes debt has that way of kind of taking over your life. A regret was I didn't always want to live below my means. I'm a guy, I like things, I'm not gonna lie. I like toys. So, sometimes trying to buy things that were just wants and not needs, again, brought on more debt. But then the reality of it that I have found is that sometimes when you're in debt for something that wasn't really a need, because sometimes indebtedness in life, until you get way up into your years and maybe a good salary and really start paying things off, it's kind of hard to not have some debt. And I realize that, so I'm not saying all debt is bad, but some of the unnecessary debt, what it does is you don't even enjoy that thing anymore, because now you're like a slave to it. And that's what I found in my life as a regret, was that when I would go in debt for something, it was almost like it became less special to me, because now it's like chained around me. So that's not always the case, but for me, that was one of the things I had to deal with. Something that was always told to me that I thought was so valuable when it comes to debt is you need to control your money. Don't let your money control you. And debt has a way of controlling you. So that's good advice that I try to abide by today. And again, nothing I'm telling you on this sheet of paper, by the way, is because I'm doing it all great. But it's just the reality of life as a learning process, and I'm going to continue to learn, continue to have some regrets, but hopefully have more successes and more realities that are positive in my life. So get out of debt as soon as you possibly can. Try to stay out of debt for those kind of debt areas that are not truly important or necessary in your life. The thing I think about is like a mortgage. I do realize, I mean, few people are going to go out and just write a check for their house. So there's a debt there that is, put a roof over your head and, a warm place to live and stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but just, it's easier to say than do, but just to keep it to the necessities. Live below your means, and you'll be able to enjoy and control your money better because you'll be able to use it to bring other people joy, giving it away, sharing with people, doing things for people. That's the true joy. So it's just about prioritizing needs versus wants or dreams. And all of them can be okay. Needs, wants, dreams, they're all okay when it comes to, the financial aspect of life. But just, again, being able to control, this is what I'm going to do for my family, or this is what I'm going to do for a friend, or this is what I'm going to do for my local church and stuff. That's you controlling your money versus going out and buying a new sports car that you don't need, which may be fun, but now that sports car owns you, and it limits your ability to go bless other people. That's something I have found as a reality. Moving on to this one is the cost of children, and I kind of laughed when I wrote this because I could probably say one thing and we can move on is they cost a lot. So they do, but there's no way to say it, but the blessing that my wife and I get in return from our kids, just in our family, there's no dollar amount to that. So yes, there's a big expense there, but I would do it 10 times over and 10 times over again and never even blink at it. There's a blessing there that you cannot put a price tag on. But what's important in that, I think, is that, as a parent with kids, you kind of want to do everything for them. And again, that comes back to me saying, I want my kids to have this, I want them to have best of this and best of that. And even now, to this day, with my kids all grown and all adults, what was most important to them had nothing to do with the financial things. It was the hugs and the snuggle time and the doing stuff as a family and just laughing together and playing together and being together and sharing time and being intentional. It's got nothing to do with money. And so just make sure your priority is always to be intentional with children, because they are going to cost a lot anyway. So you just have to kind of hang on for the ride, and along the way, try to teach them the value of that money. And they're going to see the way that you love on them is not based on monetary anything. So I think that is very valuable. My parents were like that with me. They were able to say no to things. My mom more so than my dad, and I think that's just kind of the guy thing, because I would say that's true too. I don't like to say no, but it is healthy to say no. And it teaches them a good value of money. So it's okay to not be the be-all, end-all for getting your kids things, because they will cost a lot anyway. And remember, this is kind of a side note, but you always want to be the parent, not the friend. The friends will go out and splurge on each other, and sometimes the parents will too, but at the end of the day, the parent has to be the one to say, no, this isn't good, this isn't healthy, it's not beneficial. So anyways, I just wanted to say too on that with the cost of children that the one small aspect of that investment that parents are going to make in their children, from clothes, let's go to formula, to diapers, to everything, all the way up through to college, and insurances, and just helping them out in life when they need it, and all of that investment from parents, and it's good to make that investment in children's lives. But what that does is you have opportunities to show what it means to be a servant leader, to serve your kids in a way that's healthy for them and in a Christ-like example. And you can do that even through the relationships in your home, with your spouse, with your children, with family that come in, with friends that you bring in. And again, that's what has the real impact on the children, because the cost is going to be there. It just is. And I wish I could give you this great formula of how much you should put away or something you should be doing or for the cost of children. Just know it's a lot, but it's worth every penny. So, and then looking at basically impulse purchase and everyday budgeting, I feel like this is like my personal, this is my personal, thorn in my flesh, is the impulse buy kind of thing, because it's fun. There even is some research out there that talks about impulse buying, how it can be part of actually like a psychological, makes you feel better, and there's kind of like, the endorphins kick in and stuff, and I just bought something new, and then maybe the thing that you just bought doesn't feel as good, so you want to look for that next new thing or something. So that impulse buy actually can have an impact on just your own health and your well-being. So it's very important to understand that there are times when it's appropriate, like if you're on vacation and everybody's like, okay, everybody go into the store and get something, that's different than just every time you turn around. And we live in an era of social media too, so everything is literally, everything you want to buy is at the click of a thumb. So it's very important to know that while this is probably one of the hardest areas to address, because how do you address an impulse by the mere fact that you don't know what's happening until it happens? I think just being aware that we're all human and we can fall prey to that is the best way to kind of head that off at the pass. And by budgeting is a great way to negate the impulse buying, because if you budget, like my wife and I, we're attempting to do the Dave Ramsey, and I'll be honest with you, it's one of those things you got to do multiple times because it doesn't stick right away. It's very difficult. But to do a cash system, it's not for everybody. But if a cash or an envelope system, basically so that every penny is spoken for in the budget process, you don't really have this. I mean, you give yourself some fun money. You have to do that too. But after you've taken out tithe and paid living expenses and all the bills that you have to pay, and then just make sure you have a little bit of fun money for each other, because you have to have that or you'll dig into other budget money. What you realize is you don't really have that room sometimes for those impulse buys, and it actually makes you feel better. It actually makes it feel that it's okay to pass something up, because no, I actually my envelope's kind of running low here. So that's one way to start it. And most things are based on habit. You do them enough times, then you'll be able to successfully complete it long term. So just like this, it's over a course of time that it'll really improve for you. We all are humans, so we all justify wants over needs. I think that's something we normally do, and this is a matter of prioritizing again, and I think coming back to spending time with the Lord in a way that is really honest and open with Him, and just saying, I don't do well at finances, or I do well at finances, but I'm so tight that I don't enjoy life. So there's a balance there, and I think God is in it to help you find that balance. But you got to have a plan. Like I said earlier, if you don't have a plan for your money, it's going to fall through there's little holes poked in your money bag. It's just going to happen. You won't even know where it goes, and that's both a reality and a regret. Been there on the regret side, and it definitely is a reality that I have to be monitoring and be very aware of, because it happens still to this day if you're not careful. For me, I know. So you have to plan for contingencies, emergencies. They're going to happen. So if you're looking at a budget, you have to put money away for an emergency, because if you think your budget is all tight and needy and ready, or tight and tidy and ready to go, if you all of a sudden find yourself with a $1,000 car repair, trickle effect, everything in your budget now is messed up, and you're kind of like squandering until payday to figure things out. And then here's the last thing I would say about this is, and I could say this for all of these, savings, tithing, taking on debt or getting out of debt, the cost of raising children, impulse purchasing, and everyday budgeting. Whether you're by yourself, but especially if you are, you're married at some point in life, it has to be a team effort. You have to do it together. One regret is in my own life that we didn't always do it together. Meaning, I'm the man of the house. I'll take care of the money. Just let me know what you need, honey, and I'll give you some money. It's like. And it wasn't meant out of being controlling. It was meant out of thinking that I could do it. And that's a mindset that I've always regretted, because in all honesty, God needs to do it. And I need to do it with my wife. We need to do it together with God leading us through it. And that's kind of a lifelong struggle sometimes. And the sooner you can realize that, the sooner you can place your priorities in that order, the money is going to be a lot easier, because God's going to bless you through it. Not the amounts of the money is going to be easier, but the way He's going to use it in your life in positive ways, and positive ways you can use it to influence and be a significant factor in other people's lives is going to be greatly affected by that. So it's going to bring you security, it's going to bring you peace, and ultimately I think it's going to really lead to overall contentment when it comes to the area of money.